Welcome to Weather for Weather Geeks on this Wednesday evening. If you've been, kind of following me online or on television for a while, I'm a pretty straight shooter. I'm going to tell you when our forecast stinks, and our forecast for today stunk. It rained more this morning than it was supposed to, that is for sure. We were not expecting a steady band of rain to impact a lot of the area, even bringing up to a couple of inches worth of rain to parts of the area this morning. That was not well advertised by the models, not well advertised by human forecasters. It was just a forecast bust. Predicting the future is hard. This is going to happen sometimes. It doesn't make us happy when we have to admit that the forecast went astray. That is never a pleasant thing, but it was one of those days today that we have to admit that the rain overachieved in a lot of places this morning. At the Youngstown Warren Airport, we did 0.9 on top of the 1.2 we had yesterday. For the week, we're up over 2 inches now, and we've almost erased that September deficit that we were racking up. All the zeros here on this calendar view. Been a very, very dry stretch, but over the last few days, we've really made up some ground, not only at the airport, but throughout the area. Right now, we're not adding much to those rainfall totals here locally. A couple of showers around, and a couple of showers will be a possibility as we head through the overnight. But the rainfall totals today, I showed you the number at the airport, but we can query a few other places here. These are radar estimates. And in places that didn't get in on the heavy rain yesterday, we did today, and that means parts of Columbiana County, especially Highlandtown, Salineville, up towards the Lisbon area. 2+ inches pretty common in this zone, 1.5 to 2 inches over towards Rogers, Nagley, even up towards Youngstown and Austintown. We had another inch or so worth of rain today. I just showed you 0.9 at the airport, so very, very sizable amounts, considering, of course, how dry it has been. All right, let's talk about the tropics. Got a lot to talk about here. This is our big national weather story with minor impacts expected for us here locally in eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania, but this will be a real big deal for Florida and much of the South. The outermost rain bands pushing through Florida right now. This is way, way in advance of the hurricane itself. It's a healthy-looking hurricane as of the 5 o'clock advisory. Category 1, but this is on the way to becoming a Category 3 to Category 4 storm. It's going through what we call the loop, the Gulf of Mexico loop. This is a tongue of very warm waters right in through here between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. This is bath water through here, and the environment for further strengthening will only get better and better as we go through the overnight and into our Thursday. We are expecting a landfall late in the day Thursday, maybe towards sunset Thursday evening into maybe the first perhaps hour or two of darkness. Across the panhandle of Florida, this probably does make landfall as a high-end Category 3 or low-end Category 4 storm. Now, the cone is certainly narrowed as confidence is increased as to where this is going. So Tampa's out of the cone by a wide margin at this point. Now, there'll be a lot of impacts on the east side of the center of circulation, of course. But the center of circulation itself is much more likely to really head towards the middle of the panhandle of Florida. Then the remnant low will just sort of hang out for a while over the lower Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, and there'll be a lot of rain and even some wind problems in this zone. But as far north as we are, if you're watching me from northeast Ohio and into western Pennsylvania, the impacts will be fairly minor. But, Florida, of course, no stranger to hurricanes, but this part of Florida in particular, this kind of Big Bend area, there haven't been a lot of landfalling hurricanes that have been major hurricanes, Category 3 or higher. Only a couple of red dots here, a couple of Category 3s right here. The rest of the landfalls in this part of Florida tend to be Categories 1 or 2. So it's a little bit unusual. Category 5 made landfall over here, the western panhandle of Florida, but right around the true Big Bend. It's pretty unusual to have a strong major hurricane making landfall in that part of the state. And with this, the concave nature of the Florida Peninsula, this is a particularly prone area to storm surge problems. And with perhaps a Category 4 storm, there's going to be a lot of water heading in this direction, right into Florida, right into the northwestern corner of Florida. So 12 to perhaps up to 20-foot storm surge. Thankfully, a lot of the immediate coastal areas in northeastern Florida aren't particularly highly inhabited. A lot of the bigger population centers are a little farther inland. But that being said, there are people that live out there. and this will be a big, big issue. The modeled wind gusts here already topping 50 plus miles per hour as we get into the afternoon in places like Tampa and up towards Tallahassee eventually. Now the landfall is probably not far just to the south of Tallahassee, Florida, maybe somewhere between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Thursday evening. I suspect there'll be some 100-mile-per-hour gusts, even inland, even into western Georgia. This will be a big deal in some fairly far inland locations. This is not going to weaken just instantly as it moves out of the Gulf and over land, so it's going to maintain enough strength that there'll be some wind-driven rain and lots of power outages and lots of problems with the wind and the rain as far north as Atlanta, Charlotte, certainly the southern Appalachians in the western mountains of North Carolina, parts of South Carolina as well. Now, the remnant low from Helene will probably produce some gusty winds as far north as Cincinnati, Indianapolis. It'll be a blustery Friday evening for high school football games in parts of the Ohio Valley. But in northeast Ohio, northwest PA, I don't think there'll be as many problems with wind around here, even though it'll be noticeably breezy at times during the day Thursday. And thankfully, we are missing out on the heavy rain here locally. Up to a few inches, as nearby as perhaps Louisville, Lexington, Memphis, Nashville, certainly Atlanta, and again, the mountainous areas, the Smoky Mountains in eastern parts of Tennessee, into the mountains of North Carolina, western North Carolina. They are going to get a real deluge through there. Now, locally, our weather on Thursday looks pretty quiet. Our front slides to the east and kind of hangs out, while the day may start with a sprinkle or a quick shower. It's a low-end chance. Most of the day will be pretty ho-hum. In fact, the sky may try to brighten a little bit as we go into the afternoon, especially in our northern areas closer to Lake Erie. So a halfway decent day on Thursday, even though it's not going to be bright and sunny by any stretch of the imagination. Now, as we go into the day Friday, I mentioned the wind becomes a little bit noticeable. It'll become a little bit breezy. And we have, continued this idea that we may get clipped with a couple of showers, a couple of raindrops in time for high school football Friday evening. It's not going to be much rain. I don't think there'll be thunder and lightning with this. But could there be a few raindrops around that are annoying? Yeah. And then as we go into the weekend, this low jogs so far to the west, and we're going to be so far removed from the center of circulation that I think a large chunk of Saturday's dry. Can I rule out a shower? No. But the rain chances will probably be a little bit higher by Sunday and early next week as the low starts migrating back eastward. But it's going to jog far enough to the west on Saturday that Saturday's probably the pick day between Saturday and Monday. All right, let's actually, I showed you the 8 to 14 day outlook yesterday. A lot of mild air advertised by the medium range modeling here. Let's take a look at the overall pattern on one of our sets of modeling here. This is the AI, artificial intelligence version of the European model. And, when we start this out, a little bit of the Fujiwara effect going on. And basically that's when two areas of low pressure kind of orbit around each other, like a moon orbiting around a planet. You have one low here, and then here's our hurricane right here. And these will kind of just rotate around each other, or orbit. And that's what we call the Fujiwara effect. That'll occur for a little while, but then it just sort of merges into one system, and after a jog to the west, it starts heading back east. As we go into Sunday and Monday, that increases our rain chances. Once, the remnant circulation from Helene gets off the playing field, there's going to be a lot of ridging as we go into early October, starting to come in from the southwest. So while there will be a little bit of a cool shot behind Helene early next week, that will get the boot pretty quickly. And as we go towards the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th day of October, look at how much ridging is going on here. Big deep trough, Intermountain West. A lot of ridging here. This is a mild-looking early October pattern. And as I've been talking about, if you've been watching weather for Weather Geeks over the last couple of weeks, I've been speculating that October is likely to be a warmer than average month. Now, it's October, so there's going to be a strong cold front occasionally. And occasionally, we're going to start talking about the first frost and freeze risks of the season, because that's going to happen in October, even though the month as a whole is probably going to end up being warmer than the average. I've babbled long enough on this Wednesday evening, I should say. I'll see you back here on Thursday for an update on Helene and much, much more. Hope to see you then.